Hello internet users, this is Chillafox. Welcome back to another episode. In today's video, we're gonna dive into 2020's 30-minute gameplay trailer's background story with some detailed explanation on the iconic boss's detail. And in the next video, we'll do a complete walkthrough to break down the trailer frame by frame. In the last video, we talked about Tripitaka saving Wukong from the mountain, but they soon got camped by 6 bandits. Wukong kills all the bandits and he has some conflict with Tripitaka's Buddhist idea, so he ditches him. But it is really dumb to give up on the path to true enlightenment over a single argument, so Wukong eventually comes back. To prevent Wukong from ditching again and restrain his behavior, Wukong now has a zinc metal band on his head that gives him a splitting headache if Tripitaka used the Tide Flay spell Guan Yin tells him. So, with this cursed artifact to discipline his behavior, our hero finally crosses the first threshold of the journey, and there will be more to test his resolve. After a little side quest where they capture a dragon in a pond with Guan Yin to turn it into a horse as their transportation, they spend 2 months on the road and spend the first winter on their journey. In the very early spring during the sunset one day, they saw the shadow of the building. So they take a closer look and found out it was a Buddhist monastery praying to Guan Yin. They happily stayed in this place and Tripitaka spent some time experiencing the environment and liturgical practice of this monastery. The public worship went well and it was a very zen and peaceful environment, but after it finished, Wukong couldn't contain himself for joy and continued to strike the bell. The chaos disturbed everyone in the monastery and the patriarch came out. If you recall the video where we talk about how Wukong got kicked out by Master Subudi because he created chaos turning into a pine tree, well, this is just the same situation all over again. So the patriarch of the monastery came out and oh wow, he looks old. Each line on his face was a marker of time, deeply engraved by the relentless flow of years. His eyes, those windows to the soul, were deep-set, shielded under heavily drooping lids. He introduced himself as the abbot of the monastery, with a whopping 270 years of age. Then he called for tea to be served, but it turned out it was just to show off. A young monk brought out a tray made of milk-white jade, which contains 3 cloisonné cups with gold edges. Then the abbot asked, "Doesn't that look nice? You guys came from very far away. Do you have any precious things you can show me?" Well, when someone asks you this way, it sounds pretty suspicious. So Tripitaka said, "We have no precious things, and even if we had, I could not bring it with me because of the distance." But Wukong jumped out and said, "Yo, we got some fancy drip monk robe, you know?" Well, the real name of this monk robe is called a cassock, and if you put it like that, I mean it soon becomes very personal. So the abbot just ordered his disciple to bring out all the goodies he have. One by one, the abbot's cassock was shaken loose and hung up for Tripitaka to see. It was truly a room full of embroidery, 4 walls of exquisite silk. But remember, we're at a Buddhist monastery. Normally, the monastery are filled with ascetics who read Buddhist scriptures and practice Zen. They generally do not have such a large amount of wealth. So by this time, it looks really suspicious. So Tripitaka pulled Wukong over and said, "Don't start a contest of wealth with other people. If he sees it, he will be tempted. And once he is tempted, he will plot and scheme, and we will probably get robbed." But Wukong is like, "Don't worry, I'm strong and I will take all the responsibility." So Wukong pulled out the cassock that Guan Yin gave Tripitaka. And as he shake it loose, a crimson light flooded the room, and glorious air filled the courtyard. When the various monks saw it, none could suppress the admiration in his heart and the praise on his lips. It was truly a magnificent cassock. When the old monk saw a treasure of such quality, he was indeed moved to villainy. "Please permit me to take it back to my room. where I can spend the night looking at it carefully. Tomorrow I shall return it to you before you continue your journey to the west. How would that be?" Startled, Tripitaka began to complain to Wukong. "I told you, man, it is all you're doing." "Relax, what are you afraid of? Don't worry about it." "Hey, old man, you may look at it, but you must give it back tomorrow morning. Don't spoil or damage it in any way." So the old monk took the fancy monk robe in the back room. He loved the cassock so much that he started to weep. "How could I make this last to me?" One of the little monks, whose name was Great Wisdom, said, "Aged father, this is easy. We take up knives and spears. We could kill them and bury them in the backyard." When the old monk heard this, he was filled with delight. Wiping away his tears, they started to prepare knives and spears. Objection! Yep, I freaking knew it. As a prolonged D&D player, I freaking knew it. What types of monk will have knife and spears in their monastery and this much amount of wealth? It is an ambush and they ain't monks at all. They appears to be monks in the day, and when the night falls, they will transfer into a massive gang of bandits, robbing and killing the passengers. That's how they got all of this wealth. Alright, Wukong, roll for initiative and let's kick some ass. Hold on a minute. You see, this is one of the conspiracy theories related to the journey to the west that provides an explanation for this situation. The book itself never explained the origin of wealth and where the weapons came from. Remember, they're in a monastery in the middle of nowhere, so people would assume that they have weapons inside the house. But on the other hand, the book also spent a lot of paragraphs describing the religious lifestyle of the congregation, which seems to indicate that these monks are not malicious villains. They are just a group of ordinary people overwhelmed by greed. But what you need to know is that the game developers of Black Myth Wukong seems to like some of these conspiracy theories, and we can clearly see that in the trailer, this guy is called the Head of Bandits. So now you know why there are bandit characters appear in this particular locations, and the game developers seems to like adding these smaller Easter eggs all over the place. And now let's get back to the video. So while they are preparing the weapons, there is another little monk, whose name is Big Plan, said that plan is no good. If you want to kill them, you must first assess the situation. It is easy to kill the one with the white face, but the other one looks pretty tough. So how about let's just set their house on fire and burn them. And if someone asks what happened, we can just say someone made a careless mistake. When the monks hear this, they're all delighted. Good, good, good. This plan is even more marvelous. More marvelous. So they now started to gather firewood. And while they were working on setting up the fire, the chaos woke up Wukong. He was initially going to roll for initiative and kick some ass, but realized that if he kills everyone, the Tripitaka will not be happy and probably use the spell to give him a splitting headache as a punishment. So, Wukong decided the best way to solve this is to take advantage of the situation and burn the entire monastery to the ground. To do this, he first went to the Chinese heaven, aka the Jade Palace, to find a good buddy of his. And this guy is our old friend, Guangmu Tianwang. In the Jade Palace episode, we introduced this Buddhist Dharma protector, but he also has another important background. He is the leader of the dragons. You see, in the Western culture, dragons symbolize greed or pride. In China, the dragon was a symbol of good luck and protection. But what didn't change is the common sense that dragons own a lot of precious things. Wukong even got all of his armor and weapons from the Dragon Kings. As the leader of dragons, Guangmu also has a lot of treasure, so Wukong borrows a fireproof cloak from Guangmu and uses it on the Tripitaka to make sure that he doesn't burn with the monastery. Then he jumps to the top of the room where the cassock is and starts manipulating the wind. He controls the wind to only let the fire burn inside the wall of the monastery and not hurting any people, but he also makes sure that everything else burns down to the ground. So the fire lit up the sky, and for about 20 miles to the south of this Guanyin monastery, there was a Blackwind Mountain and Blackwind Cave. The Yao Guai in the cave, who happened to turn over in his sleep, found the fire burning in the north. Astonished, the monster said, "Good heaven, there must be a fire in the Guanyin monastery. Those monks are so careless. Let me see if I can help them a little." So the monster flies into the Guanyin monastery and starts to call for water, but he soon realized that someone is controlling the fire spread upon on the roof. He sneaked into the room where Wukong was sitting and saw the cassock, so he neither attempted to pull out the fire nor call for water. The monster just snatched up the cassock and went back to his cave. So the next morning, when the monks saw Sun Wukong standing in the middle of the ruins unscratched, they were scared out of their wits and fell to their knees. The old monk, on the other hand, could not find the cassock. In addition, most of the building in his monastery has been ruined, and he was, of course, terribly distressed. When he heard other monks telling him to return the monk robe, he felt utterly helpless and incapable of solving his dilemma, so he rammed his head into the wall and killed himself. And the author wrote a poem for his stupid actions as a testimony. At the same time, Sun Wukong searched everywhere in the burned-down temple, but could not find the cassock. In dismay, Tripitaka became more and more embittered towards Wukong until he began reciting the spell as he sat there. But let's take a quicker look at the Tripitaka side of the story. First of all, this guy is handsome, really good looking, and smart. He was selected by 3 governors out of the thousands of other monks, a man who had been a monk since childhood, who maintained a vegetarian diet dedicated wholly to pursuit of nirvana. The background investigations from the 3 governors also revealed that he had an excellent family background and the highest moral character, but such a devout seeker soon found out that disciple Bodhisattva appointed to him is a ruthless killer. To be honest, this was a terrible first impression, inevitably affecting Tripitaka's view of Sun Wukong and led to other consequences later on. Frustrated and furious, Wukong pulled out his rod from his ear and tried to hit the monks, but his action was stopped by Tripitaka once again. "Monkey, aren't you afraid of your headache? Do you still want to behave badly? Don't move and don't hurt other people." After a little investigation, Wukong heard from the monk that there is a monster living nearby and could have stolen his cassock. He arrived at the Blackwind Mountain and found a bear-like monster having tea with a wolf-man taoist and a white-robed scholar. The bear-like monster is talking about how he just got a beautiful monk robe last night and he wanted to throw a large cassock-themed banquet at his birthday party. When Wukong heard them speaking about a cassock, he jumps out of his hiding place, winding his rod and tries to strike at their heads. In panic, the bear-like monster and wolf taoist flee away. The white-robed scholar, however, was killed by one stroke of the rod, and he turned out to be the spirit of a white-spotted snake when Wukong pulled his body over for closer examination. Wukong then follows the bear-like monster to the Blackwind Cave, where the bear monster grabs his black tassel lance and starts a big fight with Wukong. That monster fought with Wukong for more than 10 rounds until about noon, but the battle was a draw. Then the monster just called for a lunch break and heads back to his cave. Unable to defeat the bear monster, Wukong went back to the monastery and found a little demon approaching the monastery from the main road. He kills the little demon and found out an invitation slip. "Your student servant," the bear most humbly addressed the exalted aged dean of the Golden Pole. "For the gracious gift you have bestowed me on several occasions, I'm profoundly grateful. I regret that I was unable to assist you last night when you were visited by the god of fire, but I suppose that your holy eminence has not been adversely affected in any way. Your student by chance has acquired a Buddha robe, and this occasion calls for a festive celebration. I have therefore prepared with care some fine wine for your enjoyment, with the sincere hope that your holy eminence will be pleased to give us a visit. This invitation is respectfully submitted 2 days in advance." If you read the text closely, you'll realize that the bear is calling the old monk Golden Pole. But why is the game developer listing him as Kong Xing? To answer this question, we need to read the poem the author wrote for the old monk. 堪叹老衲性愚蒙，枉作人间一寿翁。So lamentable is this foolish old monk's nature, blended by greed. In vain he lives among men to such old age. In the very first video, we talked about why Wukong is named Wukong. We explained the idea of Suyata, Kong, the definition of non-attachment and unrestrained. Xing is nature. So Kong Xing means not to overly persist in your nature. So I believe the concept art created here by the game developer is the same character as Golden Pole. Based on the name change, it could also indicate that he has changed to a positive character by giving up his greedy nature after his reincarnation in the game. So after Wukong saw this invitation, he came up with a plan to shapeshifting himself as the old monk and get inside the Blackwind cave. But his transformation was revealed and they have another big fight. From the entrance of the cave, the two of them fought up to the peak of the mountain. And from the peak of the mountain, they fought their way up into the clouds. Belching wind and fog, kicking up sand and rocks. They fought until the red sun sank towards the west, but neither of them could gain the upper hand. So the monster called another time break and went back to sleep. And by this time, we really need to talk a bit about the strengths of this monster. You see, based on the past result, the mighty spirits and deities from the Jade Palace, which have some of the best warriors, were not in match with Wukong. But this monster continuously fights Wukong to a draw, and on the other hand, the book also has a lot of detail indicating that this monster has a nice heart and pays great attention to etiquette. These factors affect the final outcome of this monster. After Wukong draws the fight for the second time, he decides to call for reinforcement. So this time he calls Guan Yin to fight the monster with him. As they arrive at the Blackwind Mountain, Wukong saw a wolfman Taoist coming down the mountain slope, holding a glass tray on which there are two magical pills. Wukong recognized that he is the Taoist having tea with the bear monster the other day and kills him with one blow to his head. Then he went to pick up the Taoist and discovered that he was a grey wolf. The tray, which had fallen to one side, had an inscription on the bottom, made by Ling Xuzi. When Wukong saw the inscription, he came up with another plan. He asked Guan Yin to transfigure into Ling Xuzi, the wolf, and he turns himself into an elixir pill. So when Black Bear swallows the suspicious elixir, Wukong could hit and kick around his stomach. So Guan Yin agrees with the plan and transforms into the wolf. When Wukong saw the transformation, he cried, "Marvelous, marvelous! Is monster the Buddha Sattva or is the Buddha Sattva the monster?" The Buddha Sattva smiled and said, "Wukong, the Buddha Sattva and the monster both exist in a single thought. Consider in terms of their origin. They are all nothing." Everyone, please pay attention as we're gonna dive into one of the biggest hidden plot in Black Myth Wukong. You see, in 13-minute gameplay trailer, the player are having a huge fight with a werewolf monster, and his name is also called Ling Xuzi. But if we look closer to the original text of the book, we'll find out that the book have a different name but the same pronunciation. Did the game developer make a careless mistake, or is this just a coincidence? I would say probably not. In the Taoist system, the alchemy related to the elixir creation is considered a very hard and advanced skills. But the boss itself did not show any resembling skill set or attack pattern that indicate he is a Taoist master. In fact, if you look at the game company's website, you'll find a concept art labeled 灵虚道长. Judging from his clothes and appearance, this character might be the actual wolfman that was killed by Wukong in the original story. Which left us one more question. Who is this boss? I'm going to give you a very bold statement. I believe this monster that player fight against could be a Bodhisattva. If you watch episode 2 of our video, we talk about the origin of the monster in the Chinese lore, and we stated that all life beings need to reach a state of enlightenment in order to start his practice to becoming a monster, a 妖怪. And this state of enlightenment is called Ling. The character in the video is from ancient Chinese, and in modern days, it looks like this. And I'm gonna repeat the conversation Wukong and Guan Yin had in this chapter one more time. Marvelous, marvelous. Is the monster the Bodhisattva, or is the Bodhisattva the monster? Wukong, the Bodhisattva and the monster, they both exist in a single thought. Considered in terms of their origin, they are all nothing. But like what I said before, it is a bold statement and it is just a theory, a game theory. Believe it or not, you are welcome to leave a comment under the video. Let's back to the story. The plan works just as intended. When Black Bear swallowed the suspicious elixir, Monkey hits and kicks around his stomach. Guan Yin was able to retrieve the cassock and throw a golden headband onto the bear's head, which is exactly the same brand that Wukong wears. The great pain from the head forced the monster to submit, but due to his kind heart and behavior, he is given a job as a guard at Guan Yin's mountain. Wukong then returns the cassock back to Tripitaka, and they are able to head on the road once again. And there you have it, folks. This is the backstory of the 30-minute gameplay trailer, with all the previous videos as the foundation. In our next video, we'll take an even closer look at the 2020's demo trailer, break it down scene by scene to uncover more secret and Easter egg the developer have hidden for us to find. Thank you for joining me on this fascinating journey through mythology, literature, and gaming. If you have enjoyed this deep dive into Journey to the West and Black Myth Wukong, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to the channel for more insightful content. Your support means the world, and it is what makes these explorations possible. Until next time, keep your curiosity alight, and let's continue to unravel the mystery of the past as we eagerly await the adventures that lies ahead. I am Chillafox. Thanks for watching.